Well, Honorable Chris Azubogu is still with us in the studio. He is Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Appropriation, as well as Mr. Ben Akabweze, who is the Director General of the Budget Office. And we're talking about the 2018 budget, wondering why it hasn't been passed 5 months, almost 5 months after it was submitted by the executive arm of government. Well, Honorable, you're making the point, just before we went on break, that the leadership can say something, but it's another thing when it eventually comes to the House or to the National Assembly, as it were. Why would the leadership promise something that will be very difficult to deliver on within the National Assembly?
It's not that they promise what is difficult to, but the truth is that there are processes you follow for you to carry out your responsibility. And the process of making the appropriation law, there are processes and procedures that are already set out. Willingly, yeah, because leadership will go. We, as a parliament, is working in consonance with the executive to make sure we support the executive to succeed. But where our actions will not help the executive, we will make sure that we do those things. If we come and rubber stamp whatever they brought without cross-verification, and somebody goes and says, this project in 2017, 15 naira was released out of 100 naira, and you are bringing in 2018, saying that you are maintaining 100 naira. And for you to make such assertion, you must make sure that when you go to to that place, because that's the mandate of the National Assembly, through oversight, to ensure that the project or the program was properly executed and payment that was made was properly made, so that you make provisions for what is left. Because budget cycle might not end in 1 year in a particular project, but there's no point over providing in a particular sector where other people are needing money. We have limited resources. And for you to properly appropriate, you need to know what is on ground so that you can free up funds that are needed somewhere from where you don't need it anymore and put it where it needs. And that's act of appropriation.
I want to come in here because, several years ago, we would have heard a similar kind of discussion around the need for process and this needs to be done and that needs to be done. I think Nigerians understand that. But where we are right now is a peculiar place where Nigerians, it's wide open in the public domain of what has gone on in terms of the budgeting process and the perversion of the budgeting process. And I want to ask you, looking at this kind of current standoff, because really that's what it appears to be, is a standoff, when you talk about the process, how much of this has to do with the reluctance of the executive to pay out certain monies for certain projects of interest to lawmakers?
It has nothing to do with that. I just want to let you know that the Honorable Minister of Finance, I don't think it's more than 90 or 100 days, she came back from a roadshow, whereby we were able to raise about 5.5 billion, out of which 3 billion was used to refinance existing debt, domestic debt, and 2.5 was made to influence the 2017 capital appropriation. So these are things we're looking at. Between the time the funds were released from Ministry of Finance through Accountant General to the MDAs, and the time for them to award the contracts and implement, because funds are released, not when you finish, or maybe you say that the funds have been released and quickly you mop it up back because the contractors have not been able to go to site to implement or execute any of the program or project. So we are looking at those things so that we know which of them have impacted on the people. And don't forget the fact that this is a pre-election year. Or even just when you are saying, we're talking of service delivery that will help even the executive to go and engage the electorate. When they go, take for instance my state, Anambra State, if you go there, you can see that the executive is working. Projects are ongoing. And want to assert the level. And also, don't forget the fact that these contractors are also Nigerians. We want, as they finish their projects, also when they are paid, we know what is paid and what is not paid, so that when we are making provisions in 2018 budget, we know what is needed to carry over. So these are the things the executives and the legislation need to sit down and iron out so that we are partners in progress. There's no standoff. It is work in progress on both sides.
Honourable Member, in fairness, partnership means different things to different people. Okay. On the one hand, we have seen a scenario in which billions of naira are removed from projects that would fund the construction of federal roads, dilapidated infrastructure, bridges, airports, railways, etc. And it's moved to buy tricycles in somebody's local government. I mean, we have seen these things. What do you have to say about those kinds of frivolities in the budgeting process?
Thank you very much. You mentioned that you've seen. No. The provisions you might see is totally different. Where you see tricycles, everything is in zonal intervention. Let me tell you one thing about lawmaking. The national budget is being made and superintended by National Assembly, who represent different interests. To them, government intervention is also needed. Everybody, including the executive, need the votes of those people that are receiving those interventions. For anybody to go, we are politicians also, and we're also part of government. The legislature you are talking about does not want the executive to fail, because if you fail, the entire government has failed. So when you see those things you are talking about, it is part of zonal intervention. It's not that they removed it to go and put tricycles. Never. I'm Deputy Chairman Appropriation. We will not sit down and preside over where somebody will go and take money meant for major projects to go and use to buy tricycle. What you see, unless you go to zonal intervention, there's 100 billion provided for zonal intervention. That's where you see such frivolities. You can call it. But to those who have it, or to those Nigerians who are there, not me and you that are in Abuja, do you understand? It is not a frivolity. They are Nigerians and they're receiving part of what they need. If you say tricycle, it's part of transportation at their own level.